This episode contains topics that may be sensitive to some listeners. Check out the show notes for more information. Thank you for tuning in.
Time, weather, and pass.
Welcome back to our great continent, where we travel past the diverse landscapes and inhabitants you can find, from the most northern tip of Fristwold all the way to the stretching deserts surrounding Vilmere Bay. Last week we left you to marvel in the dense forests of Lehemar. This week we will travel to the Copper Mountains that lay on the north of New Vilirth. Despite its barren peaks, the mountains house a plethora of species. On the tops, mountain goats roam, with their white coats of fur. These animals are able to face near vertical cliffs and tread steady-footed even in the highest of places. In the skies circle the eagles that nest on the top branches of the highest reaching trees, right at the tree line where the rugged peaks of mountains begin. When we go deeper into the mountain, the dark and damp surroundings make for a scarce environment to survive in. Yet, even in these dark depths you will find the most interesting creatures. In shallow pools of water live transparent salamanders, scouring these springs for small insects and filtering the water for algae. And in the deepest tunnels lives the most intriguing creature of all, if only because barely anyone has seen the beast and lived to tell the tale. It belongs to the largest beings of the underground dwellers. We call it the Crania. Its skin is made from impenetrable rock, and black eyes see shadows where we see nothing. Only a few times a year, it comes to the surface to gather food larger than salamanders and rats. It generally prefers beasts such as the neek, of which the cranier is the only predator, since the neek's stinger can't pierce its skin, or the weldhound that lives in the forests on the east side of the mountains. Similar to a snake, it can live for many moonspans on larger prey. When undisturbed, the crania isn't aggressive, but, like many other animals, once the female has laid her eggs, she will attack unprovoked, both to protect her eggs and to gather enough.
There's a rot in the heart of this city.
The New Vilirth Metropolitan warns about the dangers of a new drug overtaking the streets.
The government launched a campaign against the use of neomorphic memories.
This city's nothing but copper and visions of the past.
It's a black day. For all of us.
Who doesn't dream of the times gone by?
Unsavory figures can no longer hide in the shadows.
Such is my voice.
Wake Up, New Vilirth. Chapter 4. Blood Thicker Than Water. I didn't even bother to wipe the sand from my suit or leave my shoes by the door. The sand had taken to the greasy shoe shine and covered the black leather in an equal layer of dust. Sandy footsteps followed me all the way to the sitting room, where I slumped down in the dark. For a while, I sat like that, my eyes closed. The weight of my body dragged me down. I allowed myself to sink to the edge of sleep before rousing myself and sitting up straight. I rang the bell, and an instant later, my butler appeared in the door opening. Despite the late bell, she looked impeccable.
Sir?
Bring me some herbata and a change of clothes. I'll be in my study.
Yes, sir.
The butler disappeared again. I took another minute to collect myself before getting to my feet. The papers on my desk were stacked into neat piles. The empty cups had disappeared and the floor was clean. I left a fresh set of footsteps on the woven carpet. I barely had time to settle down in my chair before the door opened. Instead of my butler, Nadya stepped inside, carrying a platter with a cup of steaming herbata and a fresh set of clothing which she draped over the couch. Most coffee plantations were destroyed after the big eruption of Mount Spinell years ago. Herbata became a faster-growing alternative, as the plant grew naturally on the other side of the mountain range. I preferred coffee to the sharp and bitter tang of the herbata, but over the years I had grown to appreciate it. First with sugar, and when that ran out, plain.
Are you working?
I'm trying to. Nadya set the cup down on my desk. The cup was small, diluted with more water than I would have liked, but 2 cups would boost my energy enough to work through the whole night. She had also brought me a basket with salted bread rolls. At least we were never short of sea salt.
How were the mines?
I rubbed my temples. The headache was returning in full force. Manageable. Nadya raised an eyebrow.
And how are you going to manage it?
I took a sip from my herbata and leaned back in my chair. I let the heat of the bitter tea warm me. Nadya walked over to a cupboard, from which she retrieved a bottle of clear liquor. The strong stuff was courtesy of her family, who had brought it all the way from Volgovia.
Here. You need this.
She filled a cup of the clear liquor. She meant well. But I couldn't help being reminded of the neomorphic memories my father had been taking. I shivered. I had tried it once, in an attempt to act as the reckless heir for one night, alongside some of the actual reckless heirs. We had sat around in a study not too dissimilar to this one. Despite the illegality of the substance, it was something you did if you worked higher up in the climate of the aristocracy, and as students on their way to doing exactly that, it was already becoming a habit for some. It was a part of our initiation into the real world. Some students, like my old classmate Felix, had wormed their way into these circles through hard work at the university and endless bells in thankless jobs. He had climbed up the social ladder to land in the study of an heir who had been handed all his success on a silver platter, like me. Yet I too had sat next to Felix, studying deep into the late bells at the university. The difference was, I didn't have to work the mornings after. A nurse, or someone who looked like it, had connected all of us to a system with a needle. I hated that part. I felt it pierce the skin behind my ear, and I could feel it sitting there until the memory kicked in.
We have a multitude of destinations, even some older ones from across the seas.
Giddiness hung in the air. I merely felt apprehension and anxiety.
You can also go for a specific experience. We have adventures too. We can bring you to the top of Mount Spinell or into the depths of the mines. But we also have a whole range of more intimate experiences available. Don't hesitate to tell me what you would like. We can make it happen for you.
She winked at me, and I wanted to sink into the leather couch. I picked the destination. A short holiday. I wasn't one for holidays or relaxing, yet that didn't matter. The memory did it for me. It was the weirdest feeling as the memory slowly dissolved the room around me. My thoughts weren't my own anymore. The worries and anxieties disappeared. My entire body relaxed as I relived a memory that felt like mine. No massages or steam baths compared. The bliss had lasted several bells after the memory, but when it disappeared, it had disappeared hard. Anxiety aggressively rushed through me for days. I had managed to stay away from the memories after that, even if the others made fun of my weariness. I took a sip from the liquor and allowed it to burn my uneasy feelings. It would never work as well as that memory, but it did its job valiantly. Nadya slid her hand over the desk and took my fingers, intertwining them with hers. I stiffened, but allowed it. Feeling her sticky fingers against mine made me shiver. I didn't understand what people found comfortable about holding someone's hot and clammy hand, but it seemed to calm Nadya down.
Can I
help you?
We need to kill it.
All right. I'm just going to hold a little brainstorm session here.
Nadya let go of my hand and leaned backwards.
What about explosives?
Oh, the mine will collapse.
I took another sip from my drink.
And the cranier will survive that.
Toxic gas?
Even if it kills the beast, and that's a big if, no one will be able to work the mines for weeks on end. Maybe moons.
Nadya chewed the inside of her cheek.
Move? To a different part of the mines?
No, they found a new copper vein there. No chance.
Suddenly, the door swung open and Sasha strutted in. I could have known. No conversation was private with Sasha in the house.
You know, I did recommend you to hire the Oneiroi.
This is a private conversation.
You want me to hire a criminal?
You work for a criminal.
I was about to defend myself when I stopped.
No, we are not having this conversation again. Nadya is right. This is private.
I'll decide if it's private.
Disagreeing with someone's business practices does not make them a criminal.
Sasha ignored her and turned to me.
You did tell me to keep an ear open to gossip, Consti.
Yes. And as soon as you have anything useful to share, I would love to know.
Nadya watched the exchange with cautious eyes. She wasn't particularly fond of my cousin. Like everyone else, she didn't know what to do with her. Sasha spoke with an insolence that got you killed in most places. And she would have been, had she not had my protection. Although moments like these made me wonder why I even bothered.
Well, she's back.
Be less cryptic.
Sasha rolled her eyes.
Rhea Razanen, daughter to the president of the Oneiroi Vanguard. Or former president, I suppose.
Former president? What are you talking about?
So I guess you do need my intel, after all. Ulva Razanen. Alexandri Razanen's younger sister has taken over. But Rhea doesn't seem to feel the same alliance for her as she did for her father. She went on a rogue mission with two of her companions, and now she's back. And we both know you can't survive out there without bumping into a monster or two. And I bet, with everything changing around in the Vanguard, she wouldn't mind a well-paying job like this.
Nadya and I exchanged looks.
I already have a solution.
Both Nadya and Sasha frowned. The memory of taking memories had given me an idea. A last resort, in the form of an old university friend. If there was anyone who could defy odds, it was Felix.
And if the Oneiroi Vanguard has changed president, my father ought to know.
I reached for my phone.
Oh, he already knows. I told him.
You shouldn't go over there by yourself.
Look! I appreciate your constant fuzzing over me. But if you don't mind, I'm not going to let staying alive depend on whether or not you feel like it.
So ungrateful.
Sasha's head snapped to Nadya. Being in a room together changed both of them into children.
Well, I'm so sorry, but I'm trying to stay alive here, aren't you? By marrying into the most powerful family in Vilirth, despite knowing its heir has zero interest in actually fucking you. How dare you!
Enough!
I stood up. The force pushed my chair back and slammed it into the bookshelf. Several books tumbled to the floor, and fear flashed over Sasha's stubborn face. I quickly unclenched my fist upon seeing that look.
My chauffeur will bring you home.
I waited for Sasha to protest. Words crowded behind her lips and her eyebrows knitted together. But the words dispersed, and she kept silent. I hit the bell on my desk. My butler stepped inside.
Miss von Lerkova would like to go home. She can wait in the hallway.
Sasha got up without complaining aloud, but the thin slit of her lips said enough. In silence, she followed the butler. Her final goodbye was the slam of the study door. I walked over to the couch and took my change of clothes from the hanger.
You are dismissed.
I turned my back to Nadya. I couldn't see her face as she walked out, but the sharp snap of the closing door told me enough. I changed and folded my dirty clothes neatly onto the sofa. I replaced the fallen books carefully onto the shelves, making sure the binding was still intact. As I sat down, I heard footsteps up ahead coming from Nadya's room. I toyed with a glass of moonshine before emptying it in one gulp, and pulling the stack of papers towards me.
Time, weather, and...
My cheeks were red from scrubbing the ink off my face. I had fallen asleep on a letter, the words still wet. My butler had carefully mentioned it when she came to bring me breakfast. I had made sure to avoid Nadya as I sneaked into the bathroom. I hadn't spotted her, however. Chances were she was avoiding me, too. I looked in the mirror. The suit I picked today was different from the simple suits I usually wore. While all my suits were expensive, if you knew where to look, this suit was made to show people who knew nothing about clothes that this was an expensive piece. It radiated money.
Sir, your car is ready.
I accepted my mask and coat before heading outside. The effects of the alcohol and the herbata had worn off, and all that was left was exhaustion, a headache, and a still unanswered question. How was I going to get rid of the cranier? As we headed off into the heart of the city, I gazed unseeingly ahead. A rumbling shook me back to reality.
Watch out, sir.
He and everyone around us stopped their car. The rumbling grew. I grabbed the seat in front of me, and the car shook back and forth. Earthquakes were a common occurrence in New Vilirth, but I couldn't get used to it. Yet, I suspected these had not been caused by Mount Spinell's activity. I looked through the curtains, anxious to see if there was anything in danger of falling on us.
It should be over in a minute, sir, but it's best to get down.
I did as he said, crawling in the space behind the seats, and waited. I kept my ears peaked for any screams of danger in case we had to run. The shaking came and went. But I stayed in the position I was in until the horns behind the car began honking. I was forced to get back on my seat. I shifted in place and avoided looking in the rearview mirror. I hesitated. In the flickering day-imitating lights of the underground, everything looked eerie. My hand hovered over the doorknob. The door did not reveal anything that lay beyond it. No sound, nor light. It was, by all accounts, an ordinary door. I thought this to be the right one, but I wasn't sure. And if it was the right place, I didn't know exactly what it was I was going to do here. I pushed the indistinct door open, leaving the unremarkable alley behind. It was an empty hallway I stepped into. Doors lined it, and a stair led my eyes upwards. Had I stepped into an ordinary apartment block? No, I recognized the curved railing in flashes of memories. And the railing shone far too clean for any simple apartment in the center of New Vilirth. I headed up the stairway. In between the creaking of my footsteps, I began to hear the swell of music. I was in the right place. The stairway changed from wooden and plain into decadent when I turned the corner. I hadn't noticed a carpet appearing, but suddenly it was there, soft beneath my polished shoes. A man stood at the entrance, still as a statue. Not a single wrinkle in his suit, his muscles pressed against the fabric, shaping it. A gun hung on his chest. He was human, but he came very close to my length.
Mr. Van Lerkhoff.
The guard made a small bow.
Welcome back to the Dragonfly.
The throbbing in my head came back in full force when the door opened and the wall withholding the music broke. What greeted me was a normal club, albeit an expensive one. Insofar that there was music, lots of alcohol. It was dark, there was dancing, and there were round booths for rich patrons. Where it differed was what was in those booths. The high back seats provided both privacy and entertainment. Dochelfar lounged there, connected to a system of clear flasks integrated into the booths themselves. Each patron selected one flask to their liking, as if selecting songs from a jukebox. If a jukebox made you go bankrupt. It was easy to spot them. The Dragonfly had been in different buildings over the years, but their booth always remained in the exact same place within their establishment. Only a few booths were up for customer rotation. Ivanov's blonde curls danced above the back seat. He hadn't changed a bit since university. Two women, humans, laughed opposite him. One pressed her metal fingers against her mouth to stifle it. Her blonde hair pooled to the benched seating and covered her more than her clothing did. Although neither they nor Ivanov noticed me, Felix did. His mouth turned up in a smile, but his eyes narrowed.
Look who has graced us with a visit.
His arm was slung around one of the women. I walked around to the booth's entrance. Only Felix's eyes were clear. Herkus, who sat next to Ivanov and Ivanov himself, stared blankly into space, tubes connected behind their pointed ears.
Sit.
My legs obeyed. Felix beckoned a woman. She wore a dress that introduced her as a nurse, juxtaposed by the tray of shot glasses she carried.
How can I help you?
He'd like vodka. In fact, we all do. And get my setup ready.
Felix glanced at me.
Unless you want to try something stronger.
We can have you hooked up to our system in a jab.
We barely passed 12 bells. I'll have some herbata.
I didn't look up at the waitress. I clamped my hands together on the shiny surface of the table.
If you aren't here to drink, what are you here for?
I glanced at Ivanov and Herkus, who sat slumped in their seat, blinking slowly. I wasn't sure what I expected. Perhaps that if I came early in the day, they would be discussing politics and be scheming.
You've heard what happened in the mines?
Of course.
For the first time, his attention was truly on me. A place like this was more than a pleasure den. News spread, deals were made, politics were established. I wouldn't be surprised if my father showed up here every now and then, which was why I had made sure he was in a meeting for the foreseeable future.
Do you know what caused it?
That information would certainly buy his way into some important conversations.
No.
Some miner messed up, right?
Quiet. Go see what the drinks are.
He waved them off.
But you only just ordered.
Go.
They got up and shuffled past me, brushing their bodies against me. I recoiled, pressing back into the seat.
Don't worry. I won't tell Nadya.
I'm not going to do anything here.
So you have a problem to solve?
He leaned over the table.
Perhaps.
You're such a shitty liar, von Lerkov. Always have been. Stop wearing your heart on your sleeve.
I wish the waitress came back so I had something to do besides just sit here.
Yes, I have a problem to solve. I thought perhaps
I could help. And what would you give me?
Anything you want.
And then what would I do for you, Konstantin? You have the same, if not more, resources than I do.
The little hope I had for answers, ideas, or anything useful wavered. The waitress returned, followed by the two humans. They lingered behind her as she set the drinks on the table. The last thing on her tray was a simple bottle with a clear liquid that sloshed around like syrup. Instead of placing it on the table, she set it in an alcove in the wall. She turned to the panel and tapped in commands too fast for me to see. Her long nails rattled against the screen. The bottle began moving until it was behind Felix, where it stopped. An automated system replaced the cap for a cap with a tube running through it, into the clear liquid. Felix leaned back.
If you stay long enough, someone here might have answers.
Excuse me, sir.
He pushed his hair aside and leaned forward. With deft movements, she connected the end of the tube to the connector behind Felix's ear.
Should I turn it on straight away?
Felix glanced at me, assessing me.
Yes, I think we're done here. Or are you going to join us? Oh, you were never any fun, were you, von Lerkov? It's been 5 years and you're still worrying about everything. You have everything you need. Money, a hot wife, more money, live a little. You, turn it on.
Certainly, sir.
The waitress returned to the control panel. Felix kept his eyes locked on me as the clear liquid began to run through the tube towards his head. His eyes slackened the moment it hit. I averted my eyes and picked up the herbata, nearly burning my hands. I took one sip of the tea and immediately burned my tongue. It was time to go. Despite what Felix said, I wasn't going to find anything here. These people did nothing but ignore reality. I had to accept that I would have to find another way, though that seemed impossible. I set my barely touched herbata on the table and was about to stand up when 3 figures entered the establishment. Slowly, I sank further down in my seat so I could watch them without being too obvious. My pulse quickened. Perhaps Felix had been right.
Wake Up New Vilirth is created, produced and written by Lisa van Hees. Directed and co-produced by Iris-sanne van der Aar. Our brilliant team of voices consists of Liam van Poorten as Konstantin, Samantha Bonouvrie as Sasha, Fey Lehiane as Nadya, Lin Schalken, Joris van de Waterbeent, Tom van 't Hull and Daan Helmendach as our radio hosts, and Reno van Oostrum, Ezra Menard, and Isa Marley as our supporting voices. Sound recording by Lisa van Hees and Jonas van Impe. Sound editing by Jonas van Impe. Sound design by Lode Woltersom. Music by Freya Terpstra and Teun Zeidner. Radio design by Joris van de Waterbeent. Directing assistance by Tom van 't Hull. Production assistance by Demi Oude-Elverink, Femke Bruil, Robert Kersies and Isa Marley. Cover art by Matt Roodhuizen. For a full list of our wonderful team, go to wakeupnewvilirth.com. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed your stay.